G'day guys, I'm finally doing it. I'm finally grabbing some mods from the Thunder store. We're going to be installing some mods within City Skylines 2. You guys have been requesting this for a while and we're finally getting into it. Now I'm going to go pretty bare bones. I'm going to go with just four quite versatile mods that I think are super powerful and give me some more detailing options and just make the game look a whole lot better. And if you think I should get some extra ones, some ones that I don't explore in this video, then let me know because I am quite open to it now that I've had a play of these ones. But I can't recommend this enough. If you want to see the full scope of possibilities when it comes to mods and assets within this game, you should go and check out Sully's channel. He's doing insane stuff when it comes to detailing, and he's like the person I'm watching when I'm feeling a little bit down about the future of City Skylines 2. I see what he can do and I go, you know what, I think that this is going to get really, really great pretty soon. We just need some mods, we need some custom assets, we need something. But for now, I've just got the 4. Let's see what we can do with them. Welcome back to New Dollarton. Alright, I've been very much looking forward to this moment, diving into some of these mods, and the first one that I want to look at is going to be changing the way the game looks rather than the game behaves. And this one is Preserve Photo Mode. This is a great mod which essentially does, well, it makes it so that you can preserve the photo mode. If I change any of these settings and exit out of it, then the game will continue to look like that. Now that's great because this will essentially act as an LUT or a LUT from City Skylines 1, and I can tailor make it to suit the game and will suit what I want it to look like. Because as much as I love the way that the colors change throughout the seasons, I also don't love the colors. And especially when we've got a lot of browns going on, we've got lots of brown buildings and we've got lots of brown trees, and then the colors are just all brown and I don't love it. And in terms of these settings, I'm going to be using a tutorial by Sully who does an excellent job at just explaining how some of these work. I'm going to be trying to create what he is rocking at the moment, which is looking really nice. So I'll leave a link to that in the description below. And before I fly through some of those settings, I'm going to be using a different mod, which is this one up here, Legacy Flavor, and I'm going to turn off that rain. I want some sun. Much better. All right, let's figure this out. All right, we are getting somewhere, that's for sure. Although I have completely forgotten where we started from. We'll do a before and after in just a minute, but I think things are changing for the better. Now, obviously, this is a work in progress. We're going to continue to work on this throughout this episode, just tweak some of these settings just to figure out how it should totally look. But at the moment, I am liking what is going on. Now, also, I think that some things are going to be obviously preference. So I really like some fog in the distance, and I love the fact that we can go through and really change some of these settings that I have only really just touched on. So I'm looking forward to diving into this a little bit more. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know. And I'm actually really excited to see what modders end up doing with these, because I reckon we're going to see some really nice LUTs later on down the track when mods finally get introduced. But I reckon there's a lot to be played with that, and I just reckon that fog adds just that extra layer to your city, makes things feel a little bit more to scale, and just means that these mountains feel and look way further away than they really are. But it's actually kind of close, whereas now they are just these distant mountains covered up by this fog, and I really like that. But it does create a bit of a washed out look to the game, so I don't love that either. It's kind of just figuring out what you want, and the balance as well, because when you look at it from this angle, I feel like this is the perfect contrast and the perfect saturation. But then when I get a little bit closer, things feel a little bit too saturated. So I remember having this problem in City Skylines 1. It's just a matter of picking your poison. What do you want? I don't know what I want. It's really tricky. Unfortunately, I don't know if these settings save. So obviously if I exit out, they save. But I don't think that's the case if I leave the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take photos of all these settings and I'm going to scroll through. So if you want to just have a little copy and paste, that's totally fine by me. And that's essentially it. But I will have to take some screenshots so I can remember exactly what to do next time I load back in. All right, let's get into the thick of this episode, what we're all here for, the detailing. Quote unquote detailing, because I think we're gonna go so light with this. I'm using two mods here. I'm gonna be using Tree Controller, which gives me the ability to place down fully grown trees amongst other different types of trees. I mean, this is so amazing. Even the fact that this is just like built into the UI and is just, I mean, this looks great, doesn't it? This looks so amazing. It gets me really excited for the future of other mods that we're gonna be getting when Paradox Mods is released. But this pretty much allows me to do this, just place down fully grown trees, and that's lovely. And of course, amongst other things, you can also go through and place in a mix of trees. You can even go, I just want just little bushes. How lovely, just like a whole bunch of little bushes down there. And they're all fully grown as well because I've selected that. Awesome. But what I want to do here is I'm going to be using their Anarchy mod, which I can activate by pressing that, or I can press Control A, which is excellent. Just a little throwback to good old City Skylines 1 days. And I am going to be using those two mods to add in some detail. And I'm gonna say right now, I don't plan to use Anarchy for anything else at this stage. I think it's pretty much just gonna be trees. And I say that because I reckon we'll be able to create a lot of detail just with trees. At least that's the plan at the moment. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down to this suburb, which I think is, I mean, I'm happy with this suburb. I think it looks good. However, I do think it's kind of missing a bit of a spark, a little bit of realism. This is an old suburb. You know, this has been here for a while, except these trees do not reflect that. This is the sort of trees that I would expect to see in a somewhat new development. You know, very centered, very much aligned to one another. Parallel even, you could even say that. And even the grass section on these roads and, you know, the fact that there isn't very much vegetation throughout the rest of these lots, I think is a bit unrealistic. So I would like this to reflect a slightly more older neighborhood. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to, in fact, just downgrade these roads. I'm going to get rid of all those trees. Do you know what? Even the grass, because I kind of want people to park on these streets. There, that's better. And now I can go through and place my very own trees. And the sort of trees I want to be placing are some much larger trees like this. These big old oaks, I think these are really quite fabulous. And if I place some of these like that, is that going to be too big? Doesn't give us a huge amount of clearance, does it? That would be a bit problematic. Maybe we'll have a look at some other trees we could place. So that's lovely. That's what I want. I'm also trying to make sure that we're not going for perfect spacing, because you don't always find perfect spacing between these trees. You know, quite often they will die, or, you know, you just don't have perfect spacing. You know, it's kind of a bit more random. But I actually think that this adds a lot, because you do find these big old trees, especially in these older neighborhoods. So I would like to kind of reflect that a little bit more. It's not much, but it adds in so much extra realism to this area, and it just kind of cements this built environment to the environment just a little bit better, makes it feel like it's been here for a bit longer than just kind of sprung up out of nowhere. Something I realized though is that I was actually in fact placing down these ones. These aren't even the largest ones. Oops, but that's okay. I have gone through and just added in some extras. I've even felt like I've been a little bit conservative with this area. I feel like I could even go a little bit harder with some of these trees, but I'll leave it for now. We do have tree growth still activated because it is a mechanic I like, but I do want to see some fully grown trees in some areas. And I think that really works. And I even think that you can just see the difference, you know? That just feels like a way more realistic and it's just a place I like to live. Whereas down here, way more built up, no trees at all. And I think that's a real shame, but that's okay. But I actually think that we're going to see the biggest difference around the areas that we built in the last episode, around all these train lines, which are looking and very much standing out like a sore thumb. I mean, this is dividing the city like nothing else. I felt like everything was looking pretty good, and then we added in these train lines and things are looking a little bit strange. So one area in particular that I want to fix up is this one down here. And the first thing I want to do is I want to go through and add in some row houses. And you know, I might even try, I'm going to go with some European ones and I'm going to go for the 3 long ones because why not? Let's live a little. Yeah, it's probably a little bit too close. Plus, I don't think it'd be very nice just hanging out on that bench right up close to the train line, quite like that, on a 90-degree angle. So I think we'll go for the 2 times instead, and I think that'll turn out pretty nice. Yeah, and that'll give us a bit of space to add in those trees. And while we watch these giant cranes building these tiny apartments, I tell you what, I reckon that this is definitely a work in progress, isn't it? This wasn't quite a finished animation. I would have really loved to have seen something in terms of some scaffolding. You know, it's so subtle, it's such a small thing, but I actually reckon that would have made such a big difference. And you know, while they're sprouting up, I think I might just change a couple of other things. I think I'm going to add in some extra different types of buildings down here because I think it's going to be a little bit samey. So we're going to just go through and add in some of these little guys. And I think that'll be very much appreciated. In fact, that whole row could be all mixed zoning. How lovely. Still waiting on a couple of buildings to develop, but while we wait for them, we're going to add in some of these trees around here, and I think it's going to add so much detail and realism. I think it's going to be really lovely. One of my biggest complaints with this game is I don't think they've quite finished the textures, you know? Like this doesn't really blend. I feel like there needs to be some stuff around here, you know, just some like gravel kind of bleeding into the grass and, you know, it's not quite there, is it? So what I'm trying to say with that is I reckon we can cover a lot of that up with some little bushes around here. Now I do have the ability to, what am I looking for here? Do this. Maybe if I turn off, yeah, there we go. So we'll turn off Anarchy so we can actually go through and just add in a whole bunch of little bushes around here, which is what I reckon the majority of the trees and foliage around here is probably going to look like. But I'm gonna go through and just add in with the single tree placement tool, because I actually think it's going to give me a whole lot more control. Oh yeah, I'm liking this. It's a little bit bushy. I've probably gone a bit overboard over this section, but I kind of like it. I sort of think that this is going to be one of the areas that's going to be the most overgrown, you know, apart from the places that have become abandoned and all the lines kind of covered up. I think that this is going to be a little bit more overgrown just because it's quite an old train line. And I think with these apartments and row houses so close to it, I think that they would probably appreciate some of these big old trees. But yeah, of course, if I had a bit more detailing tools, then I would do things a little bit differently. But to be honest, sometimes it's nice just to keep things real simple. And I think this is going to be my technique moving forward, more kind of like this, these bushes, these much smaller ones rather than going for some of these larger ones. And, you know, at the moment where the FPS is totally fine, you know, I think I've got good performance. I think down the track, that's not going to be very nice. And I also kind of just want to see what this place looks like at wintertime, because it's been a while since we've seen a bit of snow. So I don't know, we'll just maybe fly through a couple of months, see what happens. All right, I know it's not snowing yet. It is winter. I just wanted to have a little bit of a quick pause and just appreciate the colors. I think this game really shines in the low lighting. I know that's a bit of a funny thing to say, but I just think that this looks amazing. You know, you could not get this level of detail and color and realism in City Skylines 1. It just wasn't possible. So I am really appreciating how this city is looking. I don't know if it's my color settings. I don't know whether or not it's just because the sun's starting to rise and I think this is just a really good angle, but man, this is looking super nice. It just makes me really get excited about all the future development as we start to work on some other areas, especially with these clouds kind of like rolling over the city. Super lovely. So I think I'm going to push on with this lighting because I'm enjoying it. Obviously from angles, you know, when you go direct sunlight, as in where the sun is, we got no shadows, basically. It doesn't look as nice. But when you get the shadows, that's when it really is something special. So what we got down here, these clouds, okay, they might be kind of driving me nuts. All right, for the build, I think I'll just turn them off, but I do like them. I like these clouds. So we've got this pretty awkward shape down here, and I've just been really scratching my head at how I'm going to fill this area. Obviously this, you know, with a bit of tree anarchy, this is going to really help out, but I am struggling. What I think I'm going to do first is, you know what? I'm gonna get rid of everyone. Get out of here. It's also awkward because it's got a bit of a slopiness to it all. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just smooth it all out, and I think I might create some sort of project housing in this area, just like a whole block of units that all look very similar. We don't really have any of that within our city at the moment, so I think that this would be a good place to do that. I definitely prefer that. I think that looks a whole lot better. I think the sizing is better too. I wish they were all the same color. I could be demolishing them and trying to get there, but I'm not gonna. I'm also going to get rid of all of these because instead I was gonna continue all that project housing throughout this area, but I think I'm gonna create a little park. Alright, I think that's a pretty good little fit for this area. I like that we've finally got a park down and people are down there using the paths. We've also got a little workout station there just so that this is actually acting like a park, satisfying that need ever so slightly. Of course, that is not a park, but sure looks like one, and that's all that counts. And I also tried to make it so that we've got a bit of trees and shrubbery just around where that rail line is. So that's down there. What I'm struggling with though is what to do with this. I mean, if there was ever an awkward shape, this would be it. In terms of zoning, we do have like a big old square here. In fact, maybe we just put a little bit of industry. Let's see what happens when we do that. You know what? I would really love it if you guys were just one big chunk. I didn't really expect this to pop up, but it's alright. I actually don't mind it. And then I decided just to put in a little bit of commercial, which I sort of think fits in pretty well too. I like the parking, so it's all about just trying to find the assets that fit into the right spaces. Like this little warehouse also fits in pretty well, and then I just got a little path and dragged it around, just kind of following that. And I'm gonna be honest, I am so fine with this level of detailing coming from City Skylines, where I was focusing so heavily on the detail side of things, and you just go down a complete rabbit hole. That would probably just be one episode. I'd spend probably like 6 hours just trying to figure out what all that looked like, being so close to the city. Whereas this is a little bit more loosey-goosey. You can kind of just dive in and just map it out and figure out what it's going to look like. So I am pretty okay with it. I do have some more desires though, obviously I'd love to be able to change the ground color because I do think that would make such a big difference, because this kind of just looks like a park and I don't really want that. I want this to look a little bit more industrial and a little bit more of a random space as you kind of get into the city. But I do think that it is far better than just a whole bunch of random trees sprinkled around there. So that's good. I like that. What I am going to do though is I am going to continue to flesh out the rest of these areas because all of this rail line is abandoned. I would like to sprinkle in some trees to make this whole area look abandoned and just, because at the moment it looks pretty random. Again, if I had the ability, I would for sure get in here and add in some decals and just kind of blend in all that gravel into the grass. But I mean, that is just flat out incomplete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my hardest to try and make this look abandoned and try and hide some of those imperfections. And what I'm thinking is, I believe that I know these are, obviously manicured and meant to look super nice, but I think they actually fit pretty well with areas like that. I might even get in here and kind of go, stuff like that. But I'm already forgetting my rule. Rule number 1, place down the larger trees first, and then get in and sprinkle in all those little bushes. So let's just give that a go. So the challenge with this is going to be just trying to make this look like it is overgrown, it's abandoned, and really nature is taking over this built environment, this area that definitely used to be a little bit more functional than it is right now. But then I also got to try and find the balance between that and just not making a giant forest in the middle of the city, because at the moment, I think if I was just to plant a whole bunch of trees around here, then it's going to get pretty wild. So I'm just gonna be careful of that, and that's kind of half the fun with this detail work. And I changed my technique halfway through. I was going a little bit crazy with these trees, but then I decided to remove a section of track that goes through here because I think that your imagination kind of fills in the gaps, You can kind of imagine that there was once a track going through here. It doesn't really need to be like that. And then I do have these little bushes that I think really helps to just change it up, rather than being a park that has none of those little bushes is poking through. This one does, and I think that really helps. But I also think that we're being a little bit let down with winter and the way that the trees look at the moment, because I think it's a bit more of a contrast than if they were just fully green. So I'm kind of looking out for a bit of greenery. So I guess we'll just have to wait for summer for that. I'm also kind of interested to see if it snows, because that would be kind of cool. I haven't seen that for a while. So finding the balance between green space and overgrown trees and bush is really where I'm at the moment. And I think that I need to incorporate a bit of this over here, because this is starting to look a little bit random and I don't want that. So once again, let's remove some trees. And I just feel like something needs to sit here, I can't just have this green space. Almost want to place down an abandoned building, but we don't have anything like that. So I might just have to kind of use my imagination and think about where that used to be. So we do have this road here, this little intersection, and I believe that, so this section of rail line is in fact a little bit more raised up than all of this part. So I think just continuing that idea, I might just lower that down and we'll just kind of blend it in so it's not quite as obvious. But I feel like there probably used to be some sort of bridge or little tunnel that kind of stretched through here, kind of leading into maybe just some sort of maintenance shed or something that was kind of part of all of this. So how are we going to do that without actually having to drag out a road? Alright, this is a little bit cheeky, but I think I might try and do something with this. This is a path. I don't think you can do this. Yeah, see, I've got Anarchy on, so I'm able to do that. I don't think that's even possible with without Anarchy. So if I was to try and drag it out now, yeah, doesn't like it. All right, we're getting a little bit creative here, but it's, I think it's working out. I like this little path we've got here. So obviously it's a path, and obviously we're using some Anarchy just to achieve this. I'm covering up some imperfections with some of these trees, which I'm going to continue to do. But yeah, like I mentioned, it's all about just trying to find that balance, because I actually don't want to go too heavy in some areas, but then definitely using them to my advantage to like cover up bits and pieces. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to like just cover up some of these parts that are, would definitely be covered up, but then leaving some areas a little bit more open. I put a couple little bushes just in between here, but besides that, maybe just like one big overgrown one as well. But I think that's probably all I'm going to do for that little path. And then for the rest of this little area, I'm just going to place down a couple of bushes like that. For this section, I don't think the train line, or at least this factory, whatever used to sit here, was attached to this one. This is kind of like a bypass or a train line that kind of goes past all of that. So I might just cover that all up with bush so that it kind of covers that up a little bit. A couple of larger trees, and yeah, I like it. Just a bit of concrete foundation from whatever used to sit here. It is a bit of a stretch of the imagination, but it's something. And, I'm enjoying creating little detailed sections like this, but I do really long for when we start getting some custom assets, because I think that's going to make a massive difference. This whole section is going to change so much. I take it back. All of this is going to change so much when we can start actually getting some custom stuff. But for now, I think that this is working out pretty well. But yeah, just squint your eyes, use your imagination, fill in the gaps, that sort of thing. What I am doing as well is I'm going through and removing some trees, because some of these larger trees are taking up too much space and it's starting to get a little bit cluttered. But like I mentioned before, I am really keen to see all this in the snow, and then I am really keen to see it in full greenery back in the summer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just chip away at all this, and I'll probably just smash it into a 1 minute time lapse. And I want to just work on all of this, get some nice bushes around. I want to get into here and get some trees all around on this little trench, and just make this up here a whole lot nicer. And maybe even over here. I'm still trying to figure out whether or not this is going to be abandoned, or whether or not maybe just this line that stretches all the way through here, maybe that'll still be in use. Haven't figured it out yet, but let's chip away. This is making an enormous difference. I am loving the fact that there is just a way more realistic tree coverage within these areas, and I think it's just making a huge difference. You know, just a simple thing like being able to place trees wherever you like. It's amazing what you can do with that. So obviously there are still places that I do think need a little bit more tuning up, and there is still a little bit to be desired. However, I think this is like a really good start at the type of detail work I am after in this game. You know, just keeping it chill, but then also kind of get into these areas and just add a little bit of extra atmosphere. Because I think that just placing these trees mostly around the banks of this train line and kind of just defining certain areas, I think is really helping out the place. And I am trying to make it so that this side, so pretty much you can see whereabouts I've added in the trees all throughout this area, but I've left all this bare bones. And I think you can really see the difference there, can't you? I hope you can. I can. I think that Guernsey in particular, with all of these gaps, I think that some tree coverage could do wonders down here because it's looking pretty average. This is definitely the type of neighborhoods that has way more all over the place roads, and I think that's really, you can really notice a difference because gaps like that look really bad, but I think we can kind of cover them up. I did a little bit of work down here just around this train line, and the more I think about it, the more I would actually really like to see a train rolling through here. So I'm sort of feeling like this could be another industrial line. I don't know if I want to see it quite as active as the other line because this is just a single line, and the rest of it is, you know, this is a little bit more hardcore. All right, while I wait for the trees to start changing color, I want to change a couple of names of these neighborhoods that people have been suggesting. Greencrest, which is quite an industrial place. Someone actually said that maybe a bit of an industrial name would kind of suit this area. Irongate. It's a sick little name. And it kind of gives me the idea to create something in terms of a steel mill, which I believe I can create using some of these signature buildings, which I don't have anything. Yeah, see, that doesn't really work. That doesn't really work. Do we have anything in terms of a steel mill? Doesn't really look like it. Perhaps one of these types of buildings would be kind of nice around here. When I say kind of nice, kind of awful, but I think that's the type of environment this is going to be. I really would like to just add a whole bunch of industry around the shoreline around here. So if you've got any ideas, let me know, but something around iron ore or steel would be really cool, and then creating some sort of you know, natural resource out in this area, and then we can make that connection. I think it'd be super fun. So that's what that area would be like. Another little district over here, another neighborhood, and for now, I think I'm just going to, do I include all this? Can always be a little bit tricky to figure out where you want to draw the line for these little neighborhoods, but I think for now, until we start getting a really good idea of where neighborhoods and other parts of this little peninsula are going to sit, I think I'll just create it as the whole place. But I reckon there's like 2 to 3 neighborhoods around here, and one of them, I think, someone mentioned, a couple of people mentioned, Florence. We do have Florence Boulevard stretching out this way, so yeah, that kind of makes sense. I like it. Alright, there is one more little spot that I do need to add some trees. It's this little stretch down here where our old train line used to come all the way through here and connect up to this bad boy down there. So it's getting me tricky, this one, because this is kind of like heart and center of New Dimesburg. So it's kind of like, well, what's it going to look like? I don't want a huge amount of trees here, but then I also don't want, you know, it's kind of a bit random just having this big old lumpy bit of grass up there too. So the original plan was just to do something like this, which is similar to what I was doing in these areas, you know, just a very clear path of this old train line where it used to connect up. But you know what? I actually think I'm going to do something a bit different. I am going to give these guys, I'm going to give them a park. Yeah, fancy that. Fancy me giving these guys a park. So I think the city has gone through and flattened this area. You know, this would have been some sort of viaduct and, you know, just kind of missing out and not really interacting too much with these roads. But I think the city has gone through, they've flattened it, and they have instead created this into a bit of a park. I mean, being so close to the heart and center of the city, I think this would be a lovely little spot just to go and hang out. Now, unfortunately, park life doesn't exist in this game. At least not yet, so this will just be for show, but you know what? That's fine. I think I'm gonna keep it fairly open. I almost feel like I've gone too much with these trees, you know? Like sometimes you just gotta kind of keep some of these spaces a little bit more open so that you can really see the detail just in the path. But I think I'll leave it at this. What do you guys reckon? I have this like idea now with this whole area that because you've got this old train line that stretches around here and you can almost see how they kind of connect, you know, this path and the train line, I think it'd be really fun. And I believe I did something similar. I did like a walk in New York City a few years ago where it kind of did something similar. I know there's one in Australia, in Sydney, but basically the path takes the same course as the train line. So, you know, I might even do like a little path that kind of connects up here. We get rid of all this train line and it follows the same route, and you know there'd probably be some sort of information boards along the walk, and you could sit there and might be little remnants of the train track and other bits and pieces like that. I think that'd be kind of fun. I feel like that would be something that'd be really nicely suited for this area. Geez, but that really does show how little green space and paths and parks we really have in this city. I mean, that really just stands out like a sore thumb. So we might have to include a few more in the next couple of episodes. But for now, I'm going to speed this through. I'm going to go make a coffee and I want to see some green trees when I get back. Come on, game. All right, I am back. Coffee in hand and green trees in my eyeballs. Fantastic. Look at this. Yes, this makes everything so much better. You know, I love those autumn colors, but this just adds so much extra color to this whole place, especially a bit of red fire in the distance. How lovely is that? We'll just ignore it, you know? Let's just ignore that. But this is lovely. Yes. I think in the next episode, I'm going to give the same tree treatment to the rest of the city and also just add in some extra little bits of detail, just fill in some gaps and just add in some larger buildings, just get this place looking a little bit more established. You know, we're kind of gone past the stage of planning and figuring out this section of the city. Now it's more just making it look far nicer, much, much better than what it currently does. And I do think that lots of areas do look quite nice, but there's a bit to be desired in some spots, and I'd like to fix them up. But hey guys, thank you all so much for tuning in to today's episode. It is always so very much appreciated. If you've got any other suggestions for some mods I could be adding in, please let me know, because I'm just kind of scratching the surface at this stage. Part of me wants to dive in and get some extra ones, and then another part of me kind of just thinks we keep it super simple. So I'm not really sure, let me know. Next episode, I am planning on doing a bit of an update about what's going on my channel in the future, and okay, this is a little bit awkward, but I forgot to record an outro for this video, and now I have to record this kind of quietly because I don't want to wake up the house. So I do want to give a special shout out to some of my beloved patrons: Jonathan Ruppel, Dexter Batts, Julie McGowan, Kelvin, Adam Storiotes, Thomas Milne, Jose Murillo, Stuart Coates, Bill Royko, and Doc Comma. Sorry about that, just a bit of a whisper shout out there. Thanks for watching guys, see you later.